Okay, so I had just jumped into an introduction a little bit and forgot that I wasn't recording. So now we're recording, and I will rehash the introduction. Um, what I was saying is that being able to consolidate several years worth of groundwork into Kabbalah and the Enneagram and kind of the foundational ideas within this work, being able to condense that into an hour is almost impossible, right? As you can probably imagine, it takes a whole lot of references and those sorts of things to be able to get to the point where we can approach it. So the idea that I have today is, instead of trying to cram a bunch of new information into you, is I want to create more questions than answers, if you're okay with that. And part of the reason why I think that's the best approach into this territory is because anything short of that would actually rob you of the joy of discovering this for yourself. Yeah. There is such a tremendous feeling that comes from after you've been pitching yourself against a certain problem for a month, years, days, whatever, weeks, kind of random times when those epiphanies come in. But there's a certain feeling that comes over you when things click and you go, aha, that's it. That makes sense. Yeah. And that certain sensation is, well, if you want to put it in Eman terms, it's a certain kind of hydrogen, yeah, coming into the system, a certain level of connection that you normally can't get. And the problem is that me being a human with a human complex is that when I get these kinds of hydrogens or these sorts of inspirations coming in, um, my complex has to digest it, doesn't it? And this whole process of digesting, as we know with the Enneagram, is like, if you take it as it starts at one, goes down to four, and then two, and then eight, right? This sort of thing is that first segment of 1, 4, 2 is the higher blends with the lower to create the middle, roughly speaking. All right. And then that middle becomes the higher of the next octave, which blends with the lower to become the middle again. So when I connect to something, I go from one, it comes in as one, I'm four, and what you get in return is two. You see, you can't get that one from me. That's only the part that you can get if you connect to it directly. You understand? Right? This kind of bounce, bounce, bounce that goes on in the Enneagram, right? So I guess having said that, go into this with the expectation that this isn't going to be a one kind of connection. It'll be a two kind of connection. And you can take that two and put it in your eight and take it down to 5 and 7 and bring it back to a one. So you're in a position to work it, if that makes sense. Yeah. All right. Is the analogy somewhat clear?
Yep.
Okay, right. So let's begin by clearing up a couple of mysteries. First of all, I think the Enneagram is actually somewhat mislabeled. And the reason why is because the word Enneagram literally means diagram of nine. Yeah. But what that does is it ignores the fact that there's a circle around it, because it would be just as easy to draw a triangle with, this kind of overlapping 1 ÷ 7, the inner notes or the inner octave of the Enneagram, without a circle around it. Those two symbols, when transposed upon one another, have 9 points, but there's also a 10th in there. Yeah. The circle being the 10th part. So that first, I guess, is a clue, because if you call it an Enneagram without the recognition that it's actually more like a decagram, I think that would be the right term, then you're missing a bit of the information. You're missing a bit of the elevation, I should say, of what the Enneagram really is. And it's kind of curious, right? Because we talked about the Sumerians, I think, last time or the time before last, or maybe it was in another meeting altogether, how they had base 60 mathematics. And instead of base 10, like we count on all 10 fingers, they would do 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, and be able to do that all the way up through 60. They could count to 60 on both hands, you see. The Enneagram doesn't turn out like this in base 60, or now I don't know what you're looking at behind me, but it doesn't turn out looking like the Enneagram in base 60. In base 60, it's roughly a couple of lines because it doesn't have the room to bounce and to move. And so I think the first question you have to ask yourself is, who started playing in base 10 arithmetic like we have today? Yeah, you can go back and you can say, okay, well, right, the Mayans, unlikely candidate for this Western cosmology. Yeah, the other two would be the Chaldeans / Babylonians and the Egyptians, that both kind of surmised that the idea of a base 10 mathematical system opens up certain types of designs and territories that the human can relate to easier. Yeah. So we begin to look for the origins either in of the Enneagram, either in Babylonian cosmology or Egyptian cosmology. So there's one question, one big question mark I'm going to leave for you. Okay. Sumerians didn't do it, did they? They had base 60. Brilliant system, by the way, base 60. You can do a lot more with it than you can with base 10. But in any event, obviously the Enneagram, because we're dividing 1 by 7 and 1 by 3, and we get these recurring decimals therein, was founded on the concepts of base 10 and also with the idea of there being a placeholder, for decimals, fractions of tenths. How does that relate to Kabbalah? Well, the tree of life diagram, which I'll stand up and the camera will follow me over to in a minute, but it is a figure consisting of 10 circles with various interconnecting lines. Right? The idea behind it is that you've got a triad at the top, which consists of Kether, Chokmah, Chochmah, and Baina. Try and get the pronunciation right. Roughly meaning crown, wisdom, and understanding, although I would tend to replace the idea of crown with something to do with connections. Yeah? If you go back to the idea of what a crown is in ancient history, it was an electrical thing that sat upon a person's head. It wasn't only until later that it was physical, and it had to do with the kinds of connections one was able to make. And so you can also look at Kether as potentially as connection. And then you've got wisdom and understanding, yeah, Baina and Chochmah in there. I'll stand up so that you can get the reference better. Can you all see this? I'll send out a screenshot of this too later. Let me move my chair. All right, let's see. So can you see this?
The camera's not tracking.
Yeah, it's not following you.
Come back to me. All right. I move around too fast. How about now?
There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're just going to go through it real quick. This is the triad that I was speaking about at the top. Okay, and then down here you've got Gevura at position 5, which means strength, and at position did I mess that up? I'm sorry. Position 4 is Chetod, right, which is mercy, and you've got strength, and so on and so forth. We'll go over the names here in a little bit, but this idea is that it's a descending octave. And if you looked at the reference that I had sent out or posted actually on the website, and Sachin, you actually already received that writing, I don't know, good 4 years ago. Yeah, you know which one I'm talking about?
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. I haven't read it though, so this is all new for me.
Oh, good. Okay. So within that one, you can see that it goes do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si. It's a certain spot in there, and then can't go any further. And the same thing in a descending octave. So you can look at this tree of life symbol as from two directions. You can look at it from the direction of creation downwards, or from evolution upwards. Okay, and it follows that same do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, si pattern. And there's, I'm not going to rehash the document because you can already read that. We're going to work into some new or some advanced things today with that. Okay. All right. So are we kind of clear on just the outline of this, that it is diagrammatic representation of creation or evolution, depending on which way, if you're looking at it top down or bottom up. Make sense so far?
Yeah.
Now, that's the exact same thing as the Enneagram. So one would assume that if both this and the Enneagram are based in some more fundamental truth, right? This are like the Enneagram is a way to document something, but it's not. I think in a Wednesday meeting that I had with a couple of you, I illustrated the point that the symbol is not what it symbolizes. There's always some loss in there. Okay, so you draw an Enneagram, understand that you're drawing something where you're symbolizing the idea of a process or a creation or whatever, but it's not creation itself. Yeah, I think someone else is quoted as saying, the map is not the territory. All right, so please keep that in mind when you're looking at something like the tree of life symbol in Kabbalah or the Enneagram, which, by the way, I have shown in a slightly different format this time. We've eliminated the circle, yeah, and we've put the inner lines inside the triangle. And so the crossover, and again, this isn't a lesson. This isn't like memorize these things. This is going to be a good starting point for you to take up the work of it if you want to. Yeah. So in this context, we have Keter or crown or connection at the top. We've got Chokhmah down at the lower right-hand corner and Baina here at the lower left-hand corner of the triangle. And then inside, we create this inner diagram, right, where we've got these all mapping to one another. If you want, you can pull up a symbol of the, if it's easier, you can pull up a symbol of the tree of life up on your computer or screen or whatever, just so it's easier to follow along. All right, but what are we missing here? So far, you've got these points. You've got Gevura, it's pretty easy to see. You've got Chesed, okay, here. You've got Hod here, and Netzach here. And then we've got the three, but which ones are we missing from the tree of life? So far, quite a bit, aren't we? Yeah. Well, what about this middle point here?
Yeah.
Yeah. You see where everything crosses in there? That would be the point of Tiferet, or Tiferet. I'm not sure exactly how you say it, but that would be that point in there. And you can begin to see that now things are beginning to look like a elongated diagram pressed down into something that's triangular and a bit more condensed, right? What else are we missing? We have 8 of the 10 symbols. Do you know what we're missing?
Did you have?
Huh?
Did you have Yeshod?
Yeah, Yeshod. You're right. And that's missing from the diagram, and that would have to go at the bottom because it means foundation, doesn't it? Right? Yeshod means foundation, so it has to go at the bottom, one would think. And what's the other one that we're missing?
Malkuth.
Malkuth, yeah, the kingdom. Okay.
I've got the diagram here.
Yeah, right. You've got it there. Good. Yeah.
Yeah.
This and that, right? And so now let's begin to fill in some of these connections. Okay. First of all, you're going to have this huge breakthrough when you realize that these 2 points on the Enneagram are not filled in by anything. Do you see these? See how these don't terminate in anything?
Yeah.
Well, what does that mean? Okay, let's ask. Does it mean either A? Well, first of all, let's do some experimentation. Let's say that we got Yesod here and Malkuth Kingdom there. All right, that at least comes somewhat complete, doesn't it? But it doesn't seem right. Do you remember in last week's when we began to look at the the Enneagram, and we ended up coming up with the completed version of the Enneagram because of the shift, because there is an imbalance. Let me tell you something about art. Okay. Let me back up. Let me tell you something about objective art. Usually, when a painter or someone who's drawing a geometric shape or whatnot, when they're trying to convey some sort of esoteric meaning or esoteric message, they'll often do it by creating an imbalance. And so you see like these paintings where someone has an extra thumb, for example, okay, or the negative space in the classic Last Supper, yeah, the V creating the negative space in the Last Supper. Yeah. You can look at the inconsistencies in things like La Primavera, by Botticelli and whatnot, and it can point you to this idea that, aha, something is hidden, something is missing. The same thing applies to esoteric symbology. When you come across a symbol that has this, I don't know how else to describe it, but this like E, you understand? This is kind of like, it's not, it's like it's missing something. Yeah, like you get with the Enneagram. It's got this, it's symmetrical, but it's not balanced. You see? Then it should be a clue into your groundworking mind, if you will, that there's something there that needs to be filled in to fill in the picture. So instead of leaving the Enneagram as it is and putting Yesod and Malkuth here, what happens if we stick true to the diagram and put Yesod here? You see how this is it right there, okay? Yesod here. See how it's in line with those? Wouldn't it be? Well, what would you do with the Enneagram then at this point? Oh, if you all can get this. Oh,
Turn it round.
you could turn it around, but like this,
Yeah, 180 degrees.
okay. You could do that, sure. But what's unbalanced is these points, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like they're unconnected. Why are they so disjointed? Why are they so off from one another? What happens if you try to connect them? Let's do another diagram here. Let's just play around with this. This will be a good idea for you to take up the work of when you're doing groundwork into things, of actually playing with things. All right. Don't worry about the rules. Don't worry about being wrong. You can be wrong. But probably the more wrong you are leading up to the right answer, the more correct the answer is going to be in the end. So let's redo this Enneagram symbol, but instead of having it come down to 0.4 here, we're going to converge these 2 points. 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7, 1. Okay, now how does that look? Is that starting to look a bit more integrated, symmetrical? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, and so now we've got Gevura here, Hetzod here. We've got Teferet here in the center. Okay, you've got Hod here. You've got Netzach here. And Yesod down here. Now what are you missing? It's going to blow your minds in a minute. If you have the foundation for it. If not, you'll run away and go get the foundation for it. We're just missing one, aren't we? Because we've got Kether here.
Yeah.
Well, here and Bina here. All right. So now we have the complete tree of life kind of represented in Enneagram and in Enneagrammic form. All right. Now where do we go with it? Now, if you go back far enough in time before, grab this, before going into what's today known as Kabbalah, you get a system called Merkaba, okay, which is the chariot system of Jewish esotericism. Yeah, it predates Kabbalah. And this was one of their symbols. It's kind of like the split diamond. Now, if you take into consideration the rest of it and you continue to draw the lines, you come up with that complete symbol that is known in the Merkaba system. So now we're going back to like blowing your mind. Wow, sort of, you know, they twigged on this in there, but this was the original symbol of the Merkaba system. It also can be drawn as upward and downward triangles with the same thing. Let's see, how do you do that? With the same thing occurring in the middle, kind of like this repetition over and over and over again. See, but the reason why I'm bringing this out is only, as I said, to kind of stimulate the ideas with it. You can totally run away with this and begin to work this and understand things not only about Kabbalah, but about the Enneagram, about Merkaba, the more ancient Judeo-esoteric systems. And this symbol, actually, there's a couple more lines to it because they do take the, all right, take this, Gevurah and Chokmah. You see that these two are, I'm sorry, Gevurah and Chesed are connected by lines. Yeah, you've got Kether connected to Yisod in here, coming through Tiferet. These ones now obviously go more towards the center. I'm going to ruin that one if I do that. But once you start connecting all of these lines, you get the original symbol that shows up in the manuscripts from like, I think, well, don't quote me on this, but I think it's roughly 500-600 BC, right? When they were using this as a symbol for the esotericism. Now, last week we took apart the I Ching. Come back to me. Okay, camera. Last week we took apart the I Ching. This week I'm showing you, I'm not teaching anything, but I'm just kind of demonstrating that you can begin to apply these things. If you wish to take this up, take the tree of life, take this symbol that we've come to at the end with the two connected at the bottom, and begin to work through the notions or ideas that sit at each of those levels of the Kabbalah. They had names like crown, wisdom, understanding, mercy, strength, beauty, victory, splendor, foundation, and kingdom. But going back to the first lesson on the Enneagram, can you see how there is at least potentially this idea of that process, like the cooks in the kitchen or the preparing a lesson, going through this? It's the same thing, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I'm trying to get across. The Enneagram is just one way to look at it. You can blow it up into the tree, right? You can condense it down into the ancient Merkaba system, or you can run with it with the I Ching, yeah. Or, I mean, it gets to the point where you get so much evidence coming on top of one another that you have to step back and go, wow, maybe there's something to this. Maybe there's really something in this. All right. Did I race ahead too fast with this?
No, I don't think so. It's I haven't studied the Kabbalah to any degree, really.
Yeah.
But
why would the bottom two come together, do you suppose?
to
It's
make an enclosed.
points 4 and 5 in the Merkaba symbol. Points 4 and 5 come together.
4 and 5.
Yeah. if you were to take the Enneagram and just crush the bottom of it so that they come together and touch, what might that imply?
Um,
Be free, Knight.
I could do with seeing a picture of the Enneagram. I can't quite visualize
Yeah, okay,
it.
sure.
4, 5. So 4 and 6 would touch.
1, 4, 2, 8, 5. 4 and 5 at the bottom would touch.
4 and 5 would touch.
Here, we can get rid of this now, right?
Yeah.
We'll do a standard Enneagram. Okay, got the circle, got the triangle, and then you got 1, 4, 2, 8, 5, 7, and back to 1. These 2 points down here, touching, making a symbol that looks like, let's see, like that in the middle instead of something like that.
Mm.
It looks a little bit like a pentagram.
Well, it's actually 2 triangles. If you draw it out, it's you've got the bases of 2 triangles. Let me point them out here. I'll do one in green. Red. Red's better if I can find it. Okay, is my camera still with me? Good. Okay, this one, you've got 1 triangle going here, and then the other one going this way. You see, it's 2 triangles overlapping one another.
Ah,
Oh.
ah.
Now, when you're going around the Enneagram, you've got Do at the top, Re, Mi, Shock, Fa, Sol, Shock, Si, Do. Okay, shocks are the points in the triangle. So Do, Re, Mi, so Fa and Sol coming, representing the all planets level of the ray of creation and the sun level of the ray of creation merging together. I love this look. I know you all want answers. What does it mean? That bridging between Fa and Sol.
Ah. Thinking.
Huh?
Still
Is
thinking.
this the kind of groundwork you all do? When you're groundworking things, is this the sort of groundwork you're used to?
Yeah. So it's bridging the shock. It's at that level, isn't it? It's at the shock level. Am I right?
Yeah. Have you heard the idea of the will of the absolute bridging that shock? It's another way, without drawing a triangle in there, to say that the power has been doubled so that it can get around the rest of the Enneagram. And when you combine those two forces, those 2 points into a single system, you would then have enough power to get around the Enneagram. Whereas without that, yeah, if they're individual stages or steps, then you wouldn't. A very good idea, if you want to take it up, a good idea would be to draw every single line that's in the Sephirot, the tree, right, the Jewish tree. Draw every single line into this kind of diagram here. It's going to show you all the different ways that you can, actually, it's going to show you all the different ways you can go about a personal development journey or a development journey. All of the areas of study, all of the connections that one has to make. This is brilliant in this context, and as far as the names that they put with these on the tree of life, the different types of essences that one can connect to. Okay, I'm gonna see who's really punchy at the moment. All right, Knight. Yeah, I'm gonna pick on you for a moment.
Yep.
what there is another system. We've talked about the I Ching, we've talked about the Enneagram, we've talked about the Sephirot. What's another one that pops into your mind having to do with 10?
10. Not tarot.
No, I'll give you a hint. It's on the site under a certain
Oh,
H
Gemrod
reserve.
stations.
Yeah, Gemrod stations.
Gemrod stations.
Yeah, Gemrod stations mapped to this. Did you know?
Yes, that's interesting.
Oh, very interesting.
Yeah,
But diamond, star sapphire,
yeah, yeah.
star ruby. You've got
Agate, topaz.
ruby, topaz, opal, quartz, and granite. And did you do any work into those?
I haven't. No, I'm still. I got as far as the first three: diamond, the will, star ruby, the expansion, and star sapphire, the compression.
So right, I mean, if you look into the idea of Kether, Chochmah, and Bina,
Yep.
Kether would be diamond,
Right.
right?
The
Chochmah
will.
would be star ruby, and Bina would be star sapphire. And
Yep.
that's what all 12 or however many of those atrium works were based on, just those first three in there.
Okay.
And if you want to kind of take that out of an Enneagrammic context, which I think in one of the original ways that I put that, I had it laid out Enneagrammically, right? But you could just as easily take those out and put them into the context of the Kabbalah, and begin to unlock certain aspects of those things, those gem stations, right? And I've had the question several times, right? Because Leo talked about there's some overlap here, but Leo talked about different gem stations,
Right.
with different names. The names might be different, but the essences are roughly intact. They're roughly the same. Going across the board. It's just, I mean, even Leo talked about there being different gemrods. There's a universal gemrod. There's, gemrods that'll fit in the palm of your hand and whatnot.
Yeah.
They're not.
Maintenance gemrods.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they always follow the same template. So that should be a clue, or at least another way into it. You can begin to collect these kinds of references and unlock these different things. And it's surprising if you want to do a one-to-one mapping against how we analyze the I Ching the week before last, and how we're looking at the 10 Sephirot. There's an incredible amount of overlap. It's almost like they were in collusion, right, or cahoots, as they say. It's like they colluded on the nature of these things, right? When in truth they didn't, but they both touched the same essence of it. Exact same essence of it. It's something more universal. I think that's what I would like for you to understand about the Enneagram, is that it's got a very universal flow to it. I mean, it's the template of how the universe was created to begin with. All right, so where do we go from here? Like I said, I wanted to create more questions and answers in this one. Hopefully I've done that with a minimal amount of frustration, because questions can also cause frustration.
Yeah. Mind blown.
Well, good. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's amazing when something jumps out at you, right? That Merkava symbol, when I had encountered it after groundworking like this, I felt the same way, Sam. Mind blown, right? When it suddenly appeared out of nowhere of doing these things. And it doesn't take a lot of finagling, does it? I mean, it's just all you're doing is bringing 2 points together. Yeah. And then when you finish connecting all the lines, as they show up in the Sephiroth, then you get that symbol and you go, wow, okay, I guess there's a foundation to this.
Yeah.
So can I ask then, without knowing too much about the Kabbalah, in the Jewish culture, how do they work with it? I appreciate it's the esoteric side of Judaism.
They work with it exactly the way that you would work with Gemrod.
Right.
Honestly, they do. I would say that it is just another name for Gemrod, a Gemrod structure. Okay. It happens to have the name tree, but it's got the same principles in it. It's difficult to say because there's a lot of different factions that work with these things in different ways, right? There's the Kabbalah Ma'asit, which is the practical Kabbalah, which is where you get some of the more magical theurgic practices. There's a great deal of Jewish organizations have banned that kind of practice because of the the stance in the Hebrew scriptures about works like that. You've got others that take it from a more meditative type of approach. You've got others that take it from an extremely practical approach, right? Being able to apply this to the idea or the essences behind each of these stations into their lives, into how they would govern something, for example.
So it doesn't sound like it suffered the degeneration that astrology has, for example, or the tarot has, or it's still kept its core essence intact, but it's not suffered the way that other esoteric systems have.
Yeah, I would agree with that to a point. I kind of work under the notion that it was put into this form after being in the original chariot mysticism form is what they call it. After being in the original diamond form in that way, it was expanded out into this one, and in so doing, became a bit more occluded, a bit more difficult for people to get into. And I think that potentially the reason why is because the power of this diagram was being misused. Yeah.
Okay.
And so they had to create a higher threshold. And I'll tell you, if you actually go through, the same thing happens when you're working into Gemrod. There are what could best be called guardians at each gem station. Yeah. Real easy to get into quartz. Real easy to get into quartz. It happens, I'm sorry, granite. Quartz is actually a little bit more difficult. It has to do with the astral realms. But granite is mundane life. Life as you see it, life as it comes to you. You know? There's not much of a blockage there because that's where we all begin and find ourselves. When you get into quartz, the next level up in the Gemrod, that's when you have to know quite a bit about the astral realms. You know, and when you advance further than that, you get into the mental or the realms of the thought forms and so on and so forth, up to that triad level of God and creation itself. Yeah. But each station has a kind of a guardian. You have to be equivalent to it to enter, and above it to pass it. In your, not only in your knowledge, but also I guess you could say in your ability to do something with that knowledge. Yeah, I wonder if it'd be useful to have a next a run at the Atrium works.
Yeah, I would certainly like to. I was very caught by the idea of the Emion.
Emion, yeah.
That was very, and accessible. I've been practicing with that. That and the mumming side of that.
Yeah.
Really, that is powerful.
It is.
Yeah.
And it's funny when I first started driving into the idea of Gemrod works from more of a universal level as opposed to a kind of a local, well, our galaxy level, right? This is more of a universal level of it. The types of things coming in, just amazing things coming in. Those Atrium works that are on the website, I felt like it was appropriate to start at the top, right? The top three as an introduction to it so that you can have that kind of grace of a certain experience that will propel you into the journey itself.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah. Otherwise, if you say, okay, right, I mean, granite, you know what granite really is? Sachin?
What do you mean? From a chemical point of view?
No. Granite from a gem station point of view. Remember when we were doing the atrium works? I
No,
called
why do you think? No, I don't
I
do
called you
that.
to the screen.
I'm here because I want a refresher. That means
Yeah.
I've forgotten most of it. So
I
no, I
called you to
don't
the
remember.
screen for a bit of humor because one of the things that you said in a meeting not too long ago was just, I'm here to get my shit together. That's gem station granite, right? You get your shit together. That's it. You just get your life together. It almost sounds a bit like self-help in a certain way, right? As far as having templates and codings for just living life in a planetary ecology. Once you get into quartz, then you begin to deal in the astral realms and so on and so forth. But yeah, that's what granite is. It's coded phrase would be get your shit together.
Is it a very very, I want to say grounding, or very sort of get your shit together, said a different way, would be understand the balance and get your life in a state of balance. You can say it's grounding, or just control yourself, basically. All
Yeah.
of these different words.
Yeah. One of the most fundamental aspects of being on a personal development journey is to have that kind of foundation. Yeah. If you are, for example, if you are more concerned about where you are, financially, it's difficult to get into a work like this, isn't it? If you're worried about where your next meal is going to come from, you really should be focusing on that. A lot of spiritual traditions won't tell you that, but that's laying the foundation for you to be able to do it. Yeah, it's like Maslow's needs.
I was definitely on the granite station for a while. I think I'm close to getting off at it. So let's go to the next station up from that, whatever that is. So
Yeah, quartz. Quartz is interesting, right? It deals with the conversion of vibration into energy and vice versa. Yeah, quartz has that unique property of if you put energy into it, it vibrates, and if you vibrate it, it creates electricity.
Can I say something on that, Piers? There's an interesting tie-in there. The people that I've read of that do astral traveling, allegedly,
Allegedly is a good way to say that.
Allegedly, yeah. They report going through some sort of intense vibrational experience before it happens.
Yeah.
Just thought that was a bit of a coincidence. Yeah.
That does happen.
wait, could you repeat? Could you repeat what you said? I said somebody has to go through.
Yes, they at the moment of separation, if they're successful, they experience an intense vibration as their astral leaves the physical body. I just thought it was interesting. We're talking about vibrations and energy there.
It does. It feels like this kind of humming going throughout your entire body is what it feels like. Well, that's the best way I can describe it. And then when you leave your aura, there's this kind of ripping sound, almost like you're ripping Velcro. Yeah, the second you kind of go through, you hear and feel that sound as you go through it. Yeah, interesting. It's breaking certain connections. A lot of people go astral traveling accidentally and come back, and because they break all the connections on the way out, everything they get from it when they come back in is gone. Yeah, this is where that silver cord and all that type of stuff ties in. But yeah, in any event, if you all are interested, we can do another run at Atrium. I think it's high time. I might actually start again at the top to get a refresher going, and then begin at Granite, and we'll work our way up through. I'm looking for things to do for this open meeting, for people. And I think that's a pretty amazing work that we can get into in that regard.
Yeah, no, that'd be great. Fantastic. Yeah,
touches on all sorts of things too. Right? I mean, it's one thing to have a spiritual practice in oneself, but if you can't actually do anything with it, then it's more like a hobby or a pastime, isn't it? It should take you somewhere, allow you to do something with it.
would you say, Pierce, is there any imperative to practice astral travel? Is it something you would recommend?
Say again, please.
Would you say there's any imperative to learning to astral travel? Do you think it's important, or?
It's more of a byproduct. You know, there was a point in time in the Eamon work where it was really sought after, and then there was a point in time when it was said don't do it. I don't think either approach is correct. I think that if you find yourself in a situation where it becomes a possibility for you, then you should at least know what to do with it.
I see.
Yeah, that would be it. Most of the people, I mean, you have to have an astral body to astral travel.
Yes.
You can leak some of your etheric content, and it seems like an astral projection, but that's not the same thing.
Okay.
Someone with an actual astral body can stand next to themselves like this. I can be having a conversation with you, and my astral form can be standing right next to me, having a conversation with you on another level. Yeah, at the blood level.
So if people haven't built an astral body and yet they claim to be able to project, what is actually happening there?
Okay, a couple things. Either they are connecting with the microcosm of data within their own aura, yeah, etherically. You can develop resonances for things that you are interested in, and go get that information as it relates to you, right? So it can sit in your own aura. That's the more likely possibility. A little bit less likely is using the wrong hydrogen, which would be hydrogen 96, the etheric of the body, and detaching that and getting some kind of astral content through that, but it's just not the same.
I see.
Okay, you know, it'd be going back to the idea of like ectoplasm and whatnot that they had in the in the early turn of the century. This like this goo, come out of things. That actually is a part of the aura. It's the etheric region of the aura, and you can go out and sense things astrally with it. The problem though is that it's usually low. You'll at best get level 6, maybe a little bit of level 5, but unlikely. Mostly getting level 6 of the astral light. So, people who go on these journeys with their etheric body, with the etheric part of their body, they're seeing like hideous things, monstrous things in the astral light, giant mosquito-looking things and vampires and all sorts of low things. Generally, that's enough to scare a person off of doing it forever. So, in that case, I guess it's problem solved for some people. But yeah, that's different. It's not the same thing, and it can be extremely depleting because you use your etheric region of your physical complex for health. That's its primary function, to keep you vibrant, to keep you healthy. So, yeah. No sense in leaving bits of it around. I think that might be where some of the caution came in the Eamon against astral traveling, is that people were trying to push something out of themselves that wasn't their astral body, their actual astral body. Listen, it's very simple. If you have one, you can do it. It's just like having a physical body. There's no question in your mind that you have a physical body, because you can get up and you can walk across the room and you can grab something and you can come back with it. It's the same thing. If you have an astral body, if you have done the work to develop such a thing, then it's no question. You just can go do things with it. Yeah. You can go talk to the Pendragons in the astral light. You can, visit ancient Egypt. You can do things with it that is not imagination. And you're not plagued by all this lower occult stuff.
Yeah, that's very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, right. Okay. Well, good. I think we're up against the hour here. Does this leave you all with something to kind of go play with and look into?
It certainly does.
Yeah, I wanted to share a bit of my approach into groundworking. I think probably the more important lesson in this isn't necessarily of go out and understand Kabbalah. It's how to go about groundworking in new and different ways. Allowing yourself the permission to play with things and also to wrestle with things. I mean, this joining of the points 4 and 5 is something that came about after years of throwing myself at this problem. And all of a sudden it just opened up like a broken egg. Everything came spilling out. Along with the attendance that goes with Kabbalah as well, which is part of this domain for sure. So, all right. Thank you all so much. I do hope to see you tomorrow, and go forth in groundwork and have fun with this.
Thank you very much, Pierre. Thank you.
Right.
So-
Thank you. See
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye.